I want us to really look at what happened, the submission made by Advocate Mshololo. But before we can look at all the submissions made by Advocate Mshololo, because before we can do that, I think it was also important that we go back a bit. Going back, it gives us the context. There are things that were highlighted during the submissions that becomes important. So if we don't get to cover the entire submission by Advocate Mshololo, then the judge making the ruling, if we don't get to achieve that today, we'll definitely do it tomorrow. But we will continue with this case, right? We'll continue with this case even throughout the weekend. But before we can do so, I want us to, okay, in fact, let me do it this way. Advocate Baloyi, he's the one that came up with the suggestion that they need to recall Ustein, right? So having made such a suggestion, I thought to myself, wait, there's something, what the state is saying. It is very important because Advocate Mnisi later on gets to ask, he asked a question. Why was the state so keen to call Ustein, right? Mgomezulu asked a question. What is it that the state is seeking to achieve? But nobody answered the question. What is it that you guys are seeking to achieve? Nobody answered that question. Well, I think I have an answer. But before I can give you the answer, well, I think it's also important that, let me say so, State Prosecutor Advocate George Baloyi says analysis of the ballistic aspect began on Monday, but the report will be available on Wednesday. So that's one. But we know that that was postponed. I wanted to touch on this one, that they wanted the cross-examination of Mangena. And you remember that with Mangena, you are looking at the aspect that is supposed to be the aspect that is supposed to be from the defense as well, which we know that Naya is getting ready. That's one thing. But notice this, that because they want to bring in local, because they want to control, they want to do it damage control, they had to stop that cross-examination of Umangena so they can go back to Ustein. That alone, it should tell you something. But nevertheless, let's continue. The state had indicated it wanted to recall cell phone data analyst Colonel Lambasta Stein. Stein will explain the discrepancy between his phone data evidence and that of Vodacom. Tulanda Mgomezulu and Sipho Ramsipile are not opposing. Advocate Charles Mnisi says he wants to go through the state heads of argument first. Advocates Zitulele Nxumalo and Mzandile Mshololo are opposing the application. That is where our conversation also, that's some of the things that is worth highlighting. Hence, I say, let's go back. Now, you now have the context, how they rearrange things. But before we can proceed, you really need to do this. If you are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Come on, good people, because to subscribe it is free, to like the video it is free, to comment in the comment section below it is free of charge, to click the notification bell it is free of charge, to share this video it is free of charge, to watch this video until the end it is free of charge. Also, good people, come on, to watch the ads it's free of charge, and that's how you financially contribute to this YouTube channel. Speaking about financially contribution to the channel, you can become a member of this YouTube channel from as little as 20 Rand a month. You can also use the super thanks button. In case you don't want to do that, guys, there is a way where you can use my media company banking details to donate to the channel, and you know what I'm saying, we'll bring you more, and also guys want to buy more equipment. So the power is in your hands. Please do the honorable thing as we proceed. Okay. Having done that, I thought to myself, okay, let's start here. Advocate Nxumalo said, okay, Mshololo says the state can proceed with the application. Nxumalo says that, look, he wants to prepare his heads of argument. Judge, how much time do you need? Nxumalo, overnight. Listen to this one. Judge, no, we all knew on Friday the state plans to bring this application. Now, the reason I said let's go back, there are things that are worth highlighting here. Because listen to the same judge. This is the same judge. When he made a ruling, he said he's giving them up until Monday. The question is, they knew, the state knew that there was an affidavit that would have been required, but the state did not prepare that affidavit. So if we are to follow the judge and we want to follow the consistency from the judge, and then you have to ask me here, how consistent is the judge in his judgment? He says, I am prepared to stand down for an hour, then we commence again. But listen to this one. No, we all knew on Friday the state planned to bring this application. When he made a judgment that we are going to postpone this case until Monday, the same question had to be asked here. Didn't the state or everybody in this process, are you trying to tell me that they didn't know that there was going to be this type of situation where if the state is allowed, they must bring an affidavit, they must make an affidavit, and all those things? Are you saying to me they didn't know all of that? Okay, let's proceed. The judge, Baloyi says, the state is bringing this application to clarify two aspects that appear on page 23, 26, and 27 of its affidavit, and paragraph 9 of Mrs. Pinker. Now, the state wants to clarify two things. And that is, again, something that I thought to myself. That's why I said, no. Let's go back to the previous thing, because the previous minute contains something that gives us an idea. Now, please note, we have already seen quite number of things. One is the fact that the umangena had to be shifted. Two is the fact that number two is the fact that the judge told us that they knew about this, therefore they should have prepared that. But in his judgment, he acts differently. Now, number three, we should notice this, that Advocate Baloyi tells us that there are two things that they wanted to clarify. This is a perfect build-up to the next things, because you will notice how the states behave and the judge behaves, and notice the inconsistency thereon. And that's the reason why I want to show you something here. So Advocate Baloyi said, in her affidavit, she sets out the transaction on Kelly Kumalo's phone for 2nd of August and 15 October 2014 between her number and the call received from other parties. Stein locates the two calls which are said to be made by accused number 5 to Kelly Kumalo. That is what they are seeking to clarify, right? You will notice that prior to the judge reaching out the conclusion that the case is going to be postponed, did you notice that Advocate Baloyi was asked this question? What do you want to do? Do you notice that this is what they couldn't answer? Why is it that they couldn't answer this? Is because they want to introduce something else. It doesn't make sense to hear them talking about, it doesn't make sense to hear them telling us about everything else, but when they are asked, what exactly do you want to clarify? They are nowhere to be found. But here, during the submission itself, they did highlight that they want to highlight 2 to 3 things. That's it. Then they submit the papers. The papers point out too many. I think the papers that Stein wants to deal with is about 26 pages, right? But did you notice that he says the problem is found on page 23, 26, and 27, which is in paragraph 9. Few things, right? Let's proceed, and as we proceed, let's look at this one. In cross-examination of Pinky on point whether the section 205 reflect the 2 calls, counsel for accused number 3 asked if the 2 calls reflect on Vodacom. She answered that section 205 data does not reflect the two calls. We submit it. He says we submit is a serious allegation which must be investigated. If counsel says there's impropriety, they must put to Colonel Steins to clarify the calls he said were made to Miss Kumalo using data or internet. This is why we are bringing this application. The state ought to be allowed to recall Colonel Lambasta Stein to clarify issue of two calls, whether it is cell phone download or info on pages of his affidavit. That is advocate Baloyi, right? I'm not gonna deal with this because it's very self-explanatory. He continues to say it is essential to be called so the truth can be determined, so the court can make a just decision. All evidence that will assist the court. It pains the state that there is suggestions that the state put improper evidence before court. Baloyi, the factual metrics of this case will assist in determining any motives should this become necessary. Advocate Baloyi says, recalling Colonel Lambasta Steins will help to resolve the issue of motive. We look at where there are such calls or did perhaps made an error. It is for him to come and explain. Advocate Baloyi, it is the interest of justice for the Stein to clarify the source of the two calls. The state will not be part. The state will not be part to any evidence improper. We respectfully submit Colonel Lambasta Stein should be allowed to be recalled. Then Mgomezulu, Advocate Mgomezulu and Ramsepele are not opposing. Charles Nisi says he is opposing the application. Nisi says, what I put to Miss Pinky was not a thumbsuck. There was a misrepresentation of facts. You will recall. Nisi threatened to open a case of fraud after the two alleged calls that Colonel Lambasta Stein accused number 5 made to Kelly Kumalo didn't appear on Vodacom records. Article Advocate Nisi, a suggestion that that constitute reputational damage is not true. This is what the state produced. It comes from the state. Oh my God. So Nisi opposed the application. And these are the words of Advocate Nisi, which I think they are very important. And I want to go through each and every single thing here because there is something very important, right? Advocate Nisi then said, just give me a minute. The state can only recall him for purpose of new evidence. You can't recall a witness to clarify. It's unheard of. It's embarking on a process to do reputational damage. Now, again, that is something. That is something that I thought to myself. Wait, maybe it's worth spending time on. Now, the man is coming back. We're gonna have Colonel Lambasta Steins being recalled. I want to ask you this question: do you disagree with Advocate Nisi when he says this is they are doing a damage control? Do you agree or you disagree with Advocate Nisi? I want you to tell me that. But let me continue with what Advocate Nisi says. Advocate Nisi says the following: Oti, this is nothing else but an endeavor by the state to do damage control. The state should have been picked this discrepancy up during preparation of the case. Again, that is something that I said to myself, wow, this is worth noticing. Why? Because chances are if they didn't pick it up during the preparation of the case, it means that this thing of saying they are investigating as the case is going, it gets to be proven that it is true. I don't know if you see what I'm saying. You get to see that the accusation that you guys are investigating this case as we go makes now a lot of sense. Okay? Let's then look at this. Advocate Nisi continues to say, this exercise is to remove this embarrassment that is in their table due to the discrepancies picked up. Look, she, Pinky, was even at pains to say she smells a rotten rat. She was at pains to admit there was a fraud. I submit there is no legal basis for this application. It's baseless, flimsy, and it will be prejudicial wrong, procedurally wrong and unjustifiable, no matter how much reasoning then Mnisi was done. The points raised by Advocate Mnisi for me makes much sense. But before I can proceed, let's look at the points made by Advocate Ngumalo. Advocate Ngumalo says there is no reason to recall Steyn. It can be done at the closure of the case. There's no such procedure that the state wants to embark on. Ngumalo, the suggestion that has been made by the state is that accused number 5 and Kelly Kumalo were the mastermind of this offense. Such Mr. Ntuli produced the services of the other accused. It was in fact Mr. Atta Mafukate on the 2nd of August 2014 that called Ms. Kelly, and 15 October it was a deceased censor mayor that called Ms. Kelly Kumalo. The recalling of Steyn will render the whole trial unfair also to the accused. The state application is devoid of any substance and needs to be dismissed. Then Ngumalo was done. Now, yes, these people made very, very, very important points, individually so. They made very important point that there's a pursuit of doing a damage control in everything that we saw. There's a pursuit of doing, I don't know what you call it, but there's a pursuit of doing things in a manner that is unheard of. Guys, I've got a show that I want you guys to look. I wish you guys can support. I think I need to leave that 30-second video somewhere here. And according to research, that this informal economy where the townships are, it actually competes with the formal tonton. That's why your big companies such as your ShopRite, your Pick and Pay, that's why they wanna.
Ever noted, ShopRite operates, I'm talking about the ShopRite group, right? Operates as ShopRite in black people predominated areas, yet it operates as Checkers in middle class or well-off areas.
Yes.
Are you telling me that should we trust the quality of food? We talked about the well-being, right? Should we trust the quality of food on the shelves since it is offered at those low prices?
The Simbas that you buy in Checkers with the taste of the one in ShopRite, it's different in any way. So it's just some things that we want to bring up, but being honest, it's a Zimba. The difference is just that Checkers ShopRite.
And you know, you put out insults as to can this food really be entrusted, looking at the prices. You also have to look at the fact that they have been approved by the Department of Health and by the Department of Trade and Industry and by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries.
Now, let's start with the Advocate Mshololo, because I'm interested in her submissions. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. Advocate Mshololo says, I want to remind this court that the state says Colonel Steyn retired and called Colonel House. The constitutional rights of the accused to a fair trial will be violated by granting the application, and it will be unfair. Why was this clarity was not sought when Colonel was testifying? Pinky raised contradiction to the Steyn evidence regarding the two calls. A clear contradiction in the state's case was displayed during the cross-examination. During re-examination, the state didn't raise it. Okay, that is how how the case ended on the day. There are things that in this, when you look at them, you kind of feel like you can't help but ask yourself a question. What is the state trying to do here? What is it that they are trying to achieve by bringing this? Why is it that we have people moving and shifting everything so that they can accommodate look at this thing? It worries me I'm very much worried about it. You're going to have to tell me in the comment section below, what do you think about it? For me, I'm very, 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 very concerned. But it's a build-up as well to tomorrow. We're going to be focusing on Advocate Tim Shololo now. There are things that she said in her submissions that makes much more sense. But wait a minute. I want you to continue commenting, liking the video, and subscribing as well, because it's the right thing to do.